Hey guys, Eric Smith here, Five Reasons Sports contributor, co host of Scouting the Fins, and also Focused on Fins. I know you guys have been waiting for this one. Glad I can get it out here. Hope you guys enjoy it. We are starting our film review series for the 2026 Miami Dolphins NFL draft picks, and that is obviously going to start with Kaden Proctor. Miami traded from pick 11 to pick 12 with the Cowboys. They gained an additional two fifth-round picks for doing that, and they obviously selected Kaden Proctor with that number 12 pick. Proctor spent 3 years at Alabama. There was I think, 3 year stint where he went to Iowa, and but he returned to Alabama before spring practice of his sophomore season, so I don't count it too much. Um, he did play in 40 games at Bama, starting all of them as far as I know. That was 14 games in 2003, 2024 was 11 games, and then 15 games last year. The 2024 games were a little lower because he injured his shoulder in the pregame of the 2024 opener, ended up missing 2 games. As far as I know, that's the only injury that caused him to miss time over his career. There's been some talk about Kaden Proctor's weight, and Proctor says that he's currently in the 350s and that anything under 355 feels good, and that's where he's been at since the midseason. I'm not sure how heavy he was to start 2025, but I don't think that it was close. I don't think it was the close to 400 that was reported. When I watched those early season games, he still looked very nimble. If he was 400 pounds moving like that, then I'm thoroughly impressed. But I saw a player that looked more like he lacked conditioning and confidence more than just a overweight 400-pound slug. Going through the games, I watched all all the games except for one that I couldn't find. It was like over 900 snaps that I watched. Ended up clipping somewhere around 200 plays. The worst games of the season for Proctor were Florida State and South Carolina. The best game was Georgia. He was almost flawless in that game, but I have to add in the caveat that he really wasn't asked to do much in that game. I think that was the lowest number of rushing attempts that Alabama had in a game. So you're not asking him to do quite as much, in my opinion, that would challenge him. But still was a very good game. But I felt that Indiana gave the best vision of what I expect from him in Miami's style of offense. Alabama ran, I thought, a little more outside zone in that game than they did throughout the season. One of the big things for me watching that entire season of Alabama film is that it seemed like Alabama lacked an identity in the run game. They never really settled into one scheme that they could, you know, say that that's what they were. At times they were a power running team. Other times they were, more of an inside zone duo. They went pin and pull kind of heavy at one point and then finished up with outside zone. So never really felt like they settled into something that the entire offensive line could get comfortable with it. And that kind of showed in the film. But I have had Kaden Proctor on my radar for a while. I did watch him early in the season for some, early season scouting for the draft professors. And then I watched him again, obviously, after the season ended as well. And I wouldn't say that even after watching all of those games, my original notes have changed a whole lot. And, here's what I had: looks and moves apart. Doesn't stay as connected as well as I'd like for a top prospect. Need to watch more. Very good natural strength, fluid movements. Alabama has moved him around in some unique ways, which lends credibility to his intelligence. And then this was a note from last year's film, or 2024 film. Still would like to see him finish a little better, but likely competing for the top offensive tackle spot. So that would have been coming into 2025. And then the notes that I had from watching him after the 2025 season would not say my evaluation has changed much. When he gets his hands on, he's an absolute monster. But there's just too many times that he looks absolutely lost to put him in that top tier of tackles. But he's going to be first round because of the tools. and he's far from a can't miss prospect. So I did have other tackles ranked higher than him, and I do have concerns with him as a tackle. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. But, don't he has the tools, right? He's only 20 years old. So we also have to look at him, we're comparing him to a Blake Miller or a Monroe Freeling, right? Those guys are 2 or 3 years older than what Proctor is now. So think about what Proctor will be a couple years from now and then compare them. So I don't hate the pick. There's a ton of upside here. And I really, I'm rooting for him. He is a Miami Dolphin, so I am pulling for him. I want the best from him. But there are some things that need to be cleaned up that we're going to discuss as we get into the film of it. So another thing that we're going to do after we get through the film review is that we're going to step back and I'll talk about what my vision is for Kaden Proctor in 2026 and beyond. All right, so film review. I think that we would be remiss if we were doing a comprehensive film review on Kaden Proctor and did not include the special plays that he had. So, first one here that we're going to look at, he is lined up as the wing over here. He's going to come in motion. The running back actually false starts there, so play never gets off, but still something they tried to do with him. Next one here, lined up as a fullback, dive, converts that one. I think it was a 3rd and 1. Now we're getting a direct snap. Does not get into the end zone on this one. And then a handoff. Does not get into the end zone. As the running back here, does not get the ball here, but you can see how just the threat, I guess, gets the defense a little bit, and they go with the reverse instead. And then last one here, he's off the screen. He's coming into motion here, and he's going to get the crack block on, basically the crack toss there. So overall, you can see that, these special plays were not overly successful. It's probably less plays than you would have thought with the way they've been talked about and the opportunities that it seemed like he got. But generally speaking, I hope it's not something that they do in the NFL and that he is strictly an offensive lineman. Next, we're going to look at pin and pull blocks. This is something that Kaden Proctor said that he likes to do. So, going to spend some time there. First, we're going to look at when he is the pin blocker on these pin and pull plays. And we're going to start out with some negative plays. So, first one here, left side of your screen. And you can see that this defender does a good job of getting that long arm out there and being able to press Kaden Proctor towards the outside. Now he's going to be over here. This time just sells out a little too much, and he's able to get beaten over the top. Would have liked to see him just step down, get a little more vertical. And then similar for the last one that we have here, steps down. Would like to see him get a little more vertical, keep the feet moving. But as you can see, Grayson Halton does a good job here of fighting over top. And now we're going to look at some of the good reps on when he's pinning those defenders to the inside, getting a little bit of help from the tight end, pinning that defender to the inside. That was a 4-eye that he's pinning on that one. Next play, more of a 3 technique. Another good job pinning. You see how he gets a little more vertical there compared to some of those bad reps that we looked at. Another 3 technique. Gets into good position, walls him off. Another 3 technique. Now that defender gets around him a little bit, would like to see him, move his feet and hold that a little better, but still solid rep. And then this one, I like this one because he's really covering some more ground here. So now this defender is head up on the guard, so 2 technique here. And you can see that Proctor has to go a further distance. This is also Grayson Halton, who had a good game against Alabama. So good job here getting down there and pinning Halton so both the left guard and the center can get outside. Moving on to the clips of him pulling, and these are not all going to be pin and pull concepts, but they still deserve to be grouped together. And like before, we are going to start with the negative ones first and then go to the positive ones. So first play here, you can see him pulling, leading through, and one of my big things that I've seen with him is that Proctor has a frustrating habit of, as he is leading the play, he's peeking back to see where the running back is. And the result of it in this case is that if he was just, solely laser focused on what he was doing, then he either had the opportunity to chip this defensive tackle or get up here to number 24 and get a block there. But because he peeks back, looks at the running back, he ends up not touching anyone at all in that play. Next one here. So again, guard tackle pulling. And this one's a little bit tougher, but as the trail puller, you've got to be reading this front side puller. And as you see the leverage that he is gaining, now the guard doesn't do a good job of giving a clear picture here, but when this guard gets this outside leverage, the second puller should continue out and become the leader outside. If this guard kicks out the linebacker here, right, gets inside position, then yes, Proctor leads up through, gets number 9, and the running back should follow. But in this case, the running back is reading it correctly. Proctor does not. Proctor is not able to get up to his block, and number 9 here is able to make the play on the ball. Next one here, getting around the edge. Just got to be able to find that target earlier. Looks like he gets his eyes caught to the inside. When he knows he's got the center pulling around as well, eyes should be to the outside, setting it up. And this guy, doesn't make the tackle, but does enough to affect the play. Whereas had Proctor just lined that up from the beginning, it's probably a touchdown. This one here could have probably gone with the screen pass side of it too, but it's in with the pulls. It's a reverse. The big thing here is that, Kaden Proctor, you are too big to be in space and not block a single person, right? This can't happen. Just find the first guy and get a hold of him. Be decisive is the biggest thing there. Again, just pulling without a plan, right? Should be getting eyes around the corner here pretty quickly. There's nobody else to the outside there. There's no corner outside there where Proctor should have been getting that wide on it. So with this corner not coming up at all, right, I should have gotten to the inside quickly and been able to get on that defender. And then last one here. And again, maturity, right? As you're pulling around the edge here, you are leading through the hole. Do not pass up any ugly colored jerseys. We can see that this receiver is not getting a great block here. At this point here, Proctor should be hitting this guy, right? Directly to number 10. If number 3 makes the play, 10 yards further downfield, we can live with that. But Proctor actively avoids number 10 and then goes to number 3, and number 10 makes the play. So, again, right, maturity thing. Just don't pass up ugly colored jerseys. Now, as we get into the good side of the pulling, I want you guys to pay attention to how much more confident Kaden Proctor looks when he's doing this. So on this one, he is going to be pulling to the outside, gets tripped up a little bit, but still does a good job maintaining his balance and getting the kick out on the corner. Does enough that the center can get through there. I have no issues with Kaden's job on this one. Next one, now we see him getting outside and does a good job of not getting too wide, finds these blocks, stays fairly close to it, identifies his defender, and gets to him, right? And he does get knocked off balance, but I still consider this a good rep because he's getting out there, he's making contact with the guy that he needs to, and that guy's not making the play. So I'll live with this all day from a 350-pounder getting in space. On this one, we get a bit of a power play here. I guess it's a center counter, I guess is what I would classify this as, because you're getting the counter action from the running back. Your center and tackle are pulling. And Proctor's doing a good job here, right? Because we're getting the back block there from the left guard. We're going to get a combo between the right guard and the right tackle through number 7 up to number 20. Center is kicking out number 11. So Proctor knows that this linebacker, number 5 here, this is his target. And Proctor does a good job of, as he's getting through the hole here, of locating his target. We saw before that he was pulling around, going through that hole and looking back towards the running back, and lost the location of where he should have been going, or a defender that he could have blocked. In this case, does a good job being much more focused, and the play doesn't result in much, but from Proctor's perspective, good job on that one. Now here we see him getting to the outside and just sealing the edge, and this again is similar to one that we saw earlier. There is no defender outside of the screen here, so Proctor has no reason to get too far outside, but he's still doing a good job of being athletic, getting to the outside. And then as he clears the edge here, he just kind of settles down, makes the block, takes out 2 defenders, and the running back walks in. So just a good job here of getting to the edge and being athletic to flip around and be ready to go. Now we're seeing that a center power now. So now, instead of getting the tackle comboing to this backside backer, now he's kicking out there. So we're getting the center pulling through. If this linebacker sits back, then Proctor would continue through and follow the center. But because the linebacker's doing a good job, Proctor gets his eyes on him, is able to settle it down, right? And not a great, not a highlight block there by any means, but this is a tough thing to do, to ask him to turn, open up, sprint across the formation, and then settle up and get onto a linebacker. You're not going to see a lot of big guys that can do that. So this was still a good rep by Proctor. Next one, now we're getting outside. And just another good job of getting out quickly, identifying his target, and being able to settle the feet down and attach to it. Again, outside. Knows exactly where he's going from the beginning. Attacks inside out. And once that corner commits to the outside, then Proctor is just decisive and isn't, looking back and forth, and is able to just get hands on him and widen him out. And then last one. So this kind of goes back to the rep that we talked about, don't pass up ugly colored jerseys. And you can see the improvement here in the playoff game. Proctor's getting around the edge, and we don't get the seal from the tight end. This is a tough block for the tight end, but Proctor realizes that. And instead of passing up our Mason Thomas and letting him make the play, this time Proctor gives a bit of a punch and then goes to the next level. And would like to see him stay on that defensive back, right? Run his feet, probably get a bigger gain out of it if Proctor doesn't, just shove him and look back. But I still like the maturity that he showed, just again in season, from one example to the next. Next, we're going to take a look at down blocks. I only have one negative down block, but for the sake of being comprehensive, we are still going to take a look at the negative one before we switch over to the positive ones. So here we are with Kaden Proctor, and you can see that on this one, against South Carolina, not one of his better games, does not keep his feet moving there, comes in a bit high on number 93. You can see the pad level is too high. So 93 is able to get through there and make the play in this case. And then as we flip over to the good side of it, these are all in chronological order. I think you're going to see they get a little better as the season moves on. So early season game here, solid job on this one, right? Not dominating, but gets a little bit of movement, does enough to get the running back through. Later in the same game, getting a little more movement. You can kind of see that tendency that I was talking about of peeking behind him, right? This is Proctor's head right here. And you can see that he's kind of looking over his left shoulder, trying to find that running back, but does a decent job on this down block. And now this one getting down to a, nope, he doesn't get down to the 2-eye. He's just patient and lets that end cross his face and then washes him out. Obviously would like to see him stay connected, but as far as that defensive end went, like look where he is compared to the hash mark. And then Proctor is just patient here and takes him all the way across, gives the running back a big lane. Now this one, this was an example where they went tackle over. They only have a left guard over here. Proctor moved over essentially as the right tight end, but it's not a 6 offensive lineman set. But down block here, really liked the movement that he got. Play didn't work overall, but Proctor was good. And then back over to the left side. And on this one, again, just getting a ton of movement on the down block there. So one bad one through the entire season, really, but plenty of good stuff there on the down blocks. Next, we're going to look at combo blocks and climbing to that second level. And especially when we look at these couple of bad ones that we have, it's not always just on Proctor because you are, comboing with somebody else. So keep that in mind a little bit as we look at these two clips. But on this one, you can see that they are double teaming the, 4-eye technique defensive tackle there, working up to number 31. They don't get a ton of movement early on this play, and that means that Proctor is late getting to 31, ends up trying to spin out there, never really gets to number 31. And then the other one that we have here, he just gets too far into this, right? Right idea, right? We're galloping into that. Need to just gallop with that right shoulder, deliver the blow, and then continue to number 5 there, scraping over the top. But Proctor gets in there a little too far. And by the time that he's trying to get to number 5 is over the top. So I like what he's doing here. Just need to, have a little better technique here. And he's going to be able to spill number 10 over and then seal number 5 without a problem. And then when it comes to the good side, we're going to see a lot more good with Kaden Proctor and these combo blocks. On this one, he's working with the F tight end here. Lineup is the wing. Starts out with the defensive end, climbs to that linebacker. Good job there. Next one here, similar idea, but you can see that they are comboing to number 28. 28 sliding to the inside. Proctor's doing a good job of starting with the combo, but seeing 28 come to the inside, doing a good job sliding off to make that block. Running back reads it well, and we get a gain out of it. Now, this is a little more of what we'd like to see with that one that we looked at before, where he's not turning his shoulders and selling out completely. A gallop with that right shoulder. Now he's able to get to the next level, seal that linebacker. Much better rep in this case. No, on this one, we get more of a true double team. They are splitting that 3 technique. And Kaden Proctor and his guard here are just doing a good job of not even really need to leave to the linebacker. The linebacker kind of sits back there, watch him kind of chop his feet and not make a decision. So Proctor and his guard do a good job of staying on it, and they eventually just take that defensive tackle into the linebacker and finish with a double pancake. Another one here gets a little too far into this for my liking, but does a good job keeping his eyes up. He doesn't get completely buried into it. So when number 40, Josiah Trotter, is able to react back, Proctor's able to get off of the first level and get to him. Another example here of not completely selling out on the down block here, right? He gets that. He's not leaning all the way into where he can't get vertical. So he does a good job here, right? As he gets to this position here, right now, everything is vertical. He's not continuing to press down here. So he gets vertical, and all he's got to do is to seal that block, and great job on that one. And then last one here. So again, just not using as much of the gallop technique here, kind of loses his feet, but still good enough athleticism, good enough concentration to be able to get up to number 0, clamp onto him, and seal him on the inside. Next concept we're going to look at is duo followed by inside zone. And a lot of these are going to look similar to the combo blocks we looked at, but there are slight differences in duo and inside zone. You're trying to get a little more vertical movement than you were on those combo blocks. So first ones that we're going to start with here are the negative plays on the first level duo blocks. So these are going to be, basically point of attack stuff, big on big. This one's against Kristen Miller. Would like to see him get a little more movement at the point of attack on that one. Next one here, probably thinks he's getting a little more help from the guard than he does. Guard whiffs completely, but Proctor is not able to maintain contact there. You can see that his feet kind of stop there on that shove, and that just catapults that 2-eye into the running back. If we're trying to see how we can handle this better, when that defender slants back to the outside, swims to the outside, would like to see Proctor just kind of make a decision to just bury him into the inside of the offensive line and keep running his feet there, not get his arms extended and just shove him out. This one here gets off the ball really good, right? Seems to make that decision that he's going to run him out of there, but comes in high, doesn't get good hand placement, and basically kind of runs through the defender. Holton is able to keep the distance there and then stack and shed to get away. Next one here. Again, pad level on this. Would have liked to see the guard get in there quicker and give a little more help, but Proctor is so much higher than this defender that he's got the size advantage here, but low man wins. It's a leverage game, and in this case, 47 has great leverage, and he's able to make the play. And then the good side of the first level duo stuff, got a little bit more of that here. So on this one, you can see that the feet just move the entire time. We get that vertical movement, create space for the running back. Again, gets on him quickly, uses that strong upper body to torque him to the side and then run him through, opens up another nice lane. This one, just look at the way that right hand is able to toss that first level defender back into the guy that they're comboing into. Just, pure strength there. Love to see that. Would like to see him start a little bit lower, but you can just see the potential when he does stuff like that. Now we're getting a huge down block there. Again, watching where this defender starts. That defender is slanting into Kaden Proctor here. Proctor gets instant movement, gets him back on his heels, drives him back 5 yards. Now goal line run, direct snap. And you can see Proctor just washing down that entire side of the line. Easy walk-in touchdown for the running back on that one. And then last one here. And just another one where the tight end's stepping in to help there, but really gets in too far to do anything. So Proctor has to take care of it himself. And he's able to create movement and open up some space for the running back on that one. Next up, we're going to look at duo climbing to the second level. So this is going to be Proctor trying to attach to a linebacker here. Couple of negative reps before we get to the positive ones. And here you can see that he's stepping down to the inside. Tight end's coming across on the split flow action. Proctor should be getting to this linebacker here. And he's just kind of, doesn't take a great angle out of there. Has a tough time adjusting and never quite latches on. Linebacker's able to get in on that play. And then the other one here, and not completely on Proctor here, right? The ball, he's setting up for this ball to be able to cut back, but because the tight end gets his ass kicked and gets blocked to the inside here, right? Not expecting Proctor to be able to prevent number 10 from making the play here, but just got to have some better balance and not end up on the ground for no reason at all here. And then the good side of it. So here you can see Proctor just being able to be patient, climbing to that linebacker, able to run his feet and create movement. Climbing up to number 5 there, latches on to him. Another good job. Now this one, number 5 actually walks up to the line. So this is still, I left it with the second level because it's a linebacker, but it is a first level block. But you can see that Proctor's doing a good job of getting onto that block. Doesn't help that the running back runs directly into the defender, but Proctor did a good job of adjusting to what the defense was doing here and creating movement. And then last one, giving a little bit of help on the first level before finding that linebacker on the second level and just walling him off, doing a good job there. All right, now we're going to look at inside zone. Inside zone and duo are similar, but different from an offensive tackle's perspective. In duo, when the players run to your side, you are going to be typically doubling a defensive tackle, comboing up to the linebacker. When you're running inside zone, the running back is coming to the same direction that you are. You are typically going to be base blocking a defensive end. So that's what we're going to see a lot from Proctor in these next few clips. The first ones, again, are going to be the negative ones. Starting with week 1 against Florida State, you can see that we're not just not getting movement, we're losing ground here, and that's not going to work running inside zone right behind that guard. Next one here, you can see that this defensive end does a good job with the long arm on Proctor, and Proctor tries to kind of combat that with the right arm toss. Doesn't get the movement that he's hoping for, and it's not the worst block, but expect more out of the big left tackle, in my opinion. Next one here, kind of slow off the ball, right? Give that little jab step to the inside and then hop into it, but the feet stop, right? Just watch his feet, right foot, left foot. And if you're watching there, and again, like I'm probably getting too technical here, right? But right foot, both feet are basically in the air there. You never want that as an offensive tackle. And by the time he lands, right now he's getting the push-pull and not able to stay on the block. So just an opportunity to improve there. And I think that we will see examples of where he improved that in the good reps, especially later in the season. On this one, gets out there better, but from right there, like at this point, he's won the inside. He needs to be able to hold the inside here, right? Get that left hand, torque him around, drive with that right hand. Instead, the defender's able to create space and get back in to help out with the play. On this one, getting a little better, right? The feet are moving a little bit better, but I don't necessarily like the way that he's getting 2 feet and trying to explode because both feet kind of pop up. Want to see him run his feet a little more. Instead, he's creating separation, and that, that separation is not good when you're an offensive lineman. You want to close that space and just keep running and use that momentum. Next one here. Now, this isn't a bad block, right? This is, a lot of people might consider it a good one, and I wouldn't argue it. Nice little snatch there, right? Defender's trying to long arm kind of the way that first defender did. And instead of trying to long arm him back, Proctor chops it, right? Chops that right hand down, takes that defender to the ground. So again, not a bad rep here. I would just like to see a little more commitment to creating space than chopping a defender down in an inside zone. And then last one here for the negative reps. And again, not a bad rep, but why are we turning around, right? You're in solid position here, right? Chop it, run your feet, do whatever you want with number 32, Army St. Thomas, but that is where your focus should be. But he peeks back around here, and when he does, now Army St. Thomas is able to get off that block and make the play. So again, we talked about it earlier. We're going to probably see this a few more times as we go through. Stop looking back at the running back. And now the good side of those first level inside zone blocks. And if you watch here, you're going to see a stark difference in the way that his feet move through the entire play. You're not going to see any hopping on these positive plays. So right there, right, a little bit of a stalemate, but you can see that the feet continue to move. He's never really looking back at the running back, so he's able to stay focused on what he's doing. Gets rolled up a little bit, thankfully doesn't get injured when that happens. Next one over here. Again, gets that contact. There's no hopping. The feet are just driving the whole way through, like driving a sled there. And you can see that the defender tries to kind of pull him off, but because Proctor is not hopping and allowing that separation to happen, Proctor's able to just bully him and open up that lane. Same idea here. A bit of a big step here from Proctor, right? That left foot, right? Watch how big he steps into it. Would like to see that a little bit shorter, but still like the general idea of there is no hop. It is just pedal to the metal and just running his feet and running it the whole way through. And then the last one here. And again, right, we're not looking back at the running back this time. Right at this point, we're not peeking back here to see where that running back is. Feet are moving the entire time, trying to close that space, and now we're just running them off the screen. So you can see, like, when everything connects on these inside zone first level blocks, it's really fun to watch. And then next thing we're going to have here, we actually don't have any negative reps for it. It is going to be climbing when blocking inside zone. And a lot of times when Alabama was running inside zone, as you could see with the previous clips, they are running it to a open side of the formation where Proctor is the end man on the formation or on the line of scrimmage there. You're going to see with these clips here that when Proctor is covered by a tight end or a wide receiver that's tight to the formation, this is where you get those combos to the second level. And Proctor did a good job in the limited opportunities that he had for that. As you can see here, he's spilling that linebacker to the outside, then climbing to the next level. Would like to see him finish the play a little better there, but pretty good job. And then the other one here, again, right, covered by the wide receiver. The defensive end is to the inside, so we're going to get a little more of an inside step than we get. Proctor recognizes right away that I think that's Mo Kamara, slants to the inside, so he doesn't need to get stuck there, and then climbs to the next level, is able to seal that defender. So 2 good reps there for climbing on inside zone, but wanted to include them because it was a separate category that we had there. Now we talk about zone plays, both inside zone and outside zone. We are going to look both at the front side and the back side of it. So the next plays that we're going to look at are the back side of inside zone. And this is going to be when Kaden Proctor is trying to climb to the next level. A couple of negative ones followed by the good ones. So on this one, just does a good job early, right? Doesn't sell out there too far, but I don't know what that little hop is there, right? Want to see him be a little more athletic with it. Um, Seems to me that the tight end might be going to the wrong defender, so probably not the worst rep here, right? But if Proctor is able to maintain his balance, I guess I would say, a little better here, right? Just shove all of that and then pick up this defender as opposed to trying to hop over that. I think we'd have a little better result there. And then the other one, and this is just him losing his footing, right? Probably more of a freak thing, but still an ugly rep, still worth putting in here. And then a couple of good ones to follow it up. So working down to the inside, realizing he doesn't need to help with number 33, getting up to number 14, doing a good job there. And now helping the F tight end there with the defensive end before climbing the next level. Again, good job there of helping as long as he needs to and still being able to get up to that next level. And next is going to be, again, backside of inside zone, but this is going to be first level cutoffs that we're looking at. So, first one here, you can see not the worst job, but a bit indecisive here. Either we need to make it all the way around and cut him off, or we need to continue driving our feet and getting vertical movement here. So, just kind of getting caught into a bit of an unknown on that one. Next one here, Proctor actually does a really good job here. I mean, this is a tough ask to ask Proctor as the defensive tackle here to get all the way down inside this, whether you want to call him a one technique or a 2-eye, it's way inside here. But Proctor opens up, gets through, comboing with the guard, and he's in great position. All he's got to do is just settle down and seal number 7, Chris McClellan, but he ends up climbing to Josiah Trotter, and I have no idea who he thought was going to be on the backside of that to pick up McClellan, but just can't, pass him up to go to a linebacker and leave a one technique or 2-eye there to make the play. And then last one here, similar to the first one, tough ask, right? It's a 2 technique. He slants back to the outside of him, but Proctor kind of get stuck in no man's land there where he probably could have used that defensive tackle's momentum just to get around him and seal him to the inside there. But worst case, got to get vertical movement here and allow a cutback lane right there. Instead, kind of gets caught in between doing those two things. And the result is that the running back doesn't get a clear read and his defensive tackle is able to make that play. And then the good side of it, and these ones are fun to watch. So now we're going to see Proctor getting all the way across, sealing that. Look at the way that opens up the lane when he gets that right. Next one here going to look very similar, but it is not the same play, but still able to seal it off, get the running back through. Next one kind of gets caught there, but against a smaller defender, he's able to then get that vertical movement and create space. Another one where he kind of gets in the middle, a little more committed to getting around and getting the cutoff. You can see how he's trying to work through to get the cutoff. Doesn't get it, but his feet keep moving, and he's able to get that vertical movement and drive him downfield. And then last one here, kind of the same idea. Looks like he is stepping across, trying to get all the way inside. Doesn't quite get there, but the feet are moving the whole way. Look at those short, choppy steps. And then as he starts moving them, right, this is beautiful from an offensive lineman, right? Short, choppy steps. We get the momentum going. Then the feet come together. Once you got that momentum and start running, great way to finish up those reps. And now we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to look at something Dolphins fans are a little more familiar with, and that's going to be outside zone. Plays we're going to start out with are going to be when he's on the backside of outside zone, trying to get that backside cutoff on that linebacker. So, as always, here is your left tackle. And we can see that, no reason to commit to the backside here by Proctor. Ends up getting turned a little bit too much, loses the angle, and his defender is able to make that play. And then the other one that we have here on this one just kind of, I think, loses sight of where he needs to be. Doesn't really need to sell out to get down here to number 5. I mean, I guess maybe they were hoping that Proctor could take number 5 and the guard could climb up to get the backside cutoff on number 21. Not helped by the defensive end slanting down there, but at the same time, still need to see Proctor be able to, as he's coming clean here, just kind of settle down, flip the hips, and mirror dodge there. Instead, his defender's able to get through and get in on that play. And then the good ones for the backside cutoffs, and some of these are going to be first and second level. Difference between the inside zone and the outside zone with these cutoffs is that inside zone, the entire line's getting a little more vertical, whereas outside zone, you're going to see the line turning and running a little more horizontal as they pursue these defenders. First one, you can see getting that left arm through, right? Get that left arm to the center of that defender and then work to get vertical from here. Does a good job of vertical movement after getting position. On this one, cutting off that second level defender, right? Starts to open up and run. Like I said, they're running a little more horizontal. You can see that this defender is not slanting to the backside or, slanting, I guess, is the best word that I can use right now. I'm drawing a blank on the word that I want. But anyways, Proctor is able to realize he doesn't need to get there, get the eyes back in the linebacker, settle down, get the block there. Next one, not quite the position that we want on this one, right? As he's coming through, want to see him be able to get the head across to the right side and get that hand up the middle, right through his chest, the way that that earlier one was. But he still does a good job of running his feet and washing him all the way through. That's why that running back is able to get through on that play. And here, another good example of getting that left arm all the way across, being able to get vertical movement. Now we see Proctor be able to use, and this is really good stuff, right? It doesn't seem that great, but when you can open up and run to the right, realize that you have won the position, right? And now we just settle down and establish position. And now this rep is completely over. This cutback lane opens up completely, and the running back ends up not having to use it. But you can see that when Proctor is able to win early off the snap, get that position, just look at all that space that's opening up if that running back does need to cut back there. Little late off the ball here, but still doing a good job of running his feet all the way through this 3 technique defensive tackle and starting to create that vertical movement, wins the inside position. Again, not able to get all the way across, but the feet never stop, so he's able to create vertical movement. If that does have to cut back, there are a few yards there to gain. Another one here where he's getting a little bit of help on this 3 technique, but we're getting Proctor all the way through. And as this rep finishes, you can see that Proctor is finishing with complete inside position there. And look at the cutback that opens up. All that running back has to do is to take it. And then last one here. And just another example of, we don't have to get in there 2 hands and latch on when we're getting these backside cutoffs. Just get off the ball and run, right? Running off the ball, left hand, right through the middle of the defender. And now we create that vertical movement. And would like to see him finish this one a little more, be a little more committed to the end of the play, but overall, this is a solid rep that helps to get some positive yards. Now let's talk about the front side of outside zones. And if this is, if there's one thing that really excites me about Proctor for the Dolphins, it's his ability on the front side of outside zones. Alabama did not run a lot of it in 2025, but of all the outside zone runs that I did see, there was only one time where Proctor was trying to block a first level defender on outside zone, and it was not a good rep. And that's going to be this one here. And you can see he's trying to block number 17. And this is more of, again, just not finishing the play. He's in good position here. As long as he maintains contact, you're not going to get called for an illegal block in the back. Just need to be able to, either continue the momentum, or if we're going to let that defender adjust to it, then we need to be able to settle the feet and be able to adjust to him. Instead, this defender is able to spin back to the inside, make the play. But this is the worst play that we have of the season for Proctor on the front of outside zone, and you should feel pretty good about that. All right, and then the good stuff. We got plenty of these ones. Front side, outside zone, first level. Here doing a good job of getting hands on that defender, torquing him. Would like to see the feet run a little better, but we'll see some more of those later. But you can still see a good understanding of what they want to accomplish with these outside zone runs. Again, here coming out a little bit high against a smaller defender. Feet stop a little bit, but still able to create width, open up space through that B gap. Now on this side, another example of where the feet stop early, right? The feet are stopped right there, but he's able to restart and create some movement. So this still goes into the good reps. Same thing there, right? Makes contact, feet stops, able to restart it, able to create that movement. And when we look at where that defender starts, right, where contact happens, look at where the defender's feet are there. And then we're able to drive that defender to where his feet are almost outside of that SEC logo. Another good rep. Nice adjustment here, right? This defender comes down late, and Proctor and his guard are able to both recognize that. Probably need to get a little more recognition coming across the line, right? Because I think that right now, what we're expecting to happen is that Proctor and his guard work up through this end up to number 11, and then we get the combo there as well. But once we get this edge defender walking down, then it should be Proctor to the edge defender, his guard to this defensive end. Now this guard should be comboing with the center up to there, and then center and tight end are responsible for this backside end and one of these two defenders. Somebody's going to come unblocked in this case. Sometimes they leave the backside linebacker. Sometimes they leave the backside end. But we're going way too much into the weeds here. The big thing here is that Proctor is the one that's able to recognize that, create a little bit of width there. But if you kind of peek at that, you see that tendency to where, he's almost got the eyes looking back again. Got to get that out of him, but you see where the potential is. Another rep here. Better job of keeping his feet moving the whole way through the rep. Would like to see him doing a bit of a better job with that long arm, but like the way that he keeps the feet moving, and we'll eventually get it all to come together. Here we see Proctor now getting that outside leverage on these wide or outside zones. And you can see that once he gets there, he gets that position and does a good job of sealing and creating the vertical pressure as that defender tries to climb over the top of it. Same idea here. Would like to see him hold that a little bit longer, but he's not getting any help from the tight end. He's out leveraged here, but he's doing a good job of getting to the outside and continuing to move the feet to run to the outside. Would like to see him, probably run a little more versus the side shuffle, but I get why he's doing it in this case. And would like to see him be able to sustain that the whole way through. But if he doesn't do as good of a job as he did on that block there, then this is a tackle for loss. And then last one here, again, similar to the one we just watched, not the best job, right? But still gets that outside leverage. And from his perspective, does enough that we can get this running back to the outside. If we get number 88 there sustaining his block, then we've got a decent play out of it, in large part because of what Proctor did with number 97 here. And then in the run game, the last thing that we have to finish up is outside zone, play side, when you are climbing to the second level. So let's get started. Proctor out here. And we can see it's going to the left. And Proctor just gets stuck a little bit too much to the inside. His guard really doesn't help either. Guard really needs to be working to the outside. I'm not sure where his eyes are because they should be comboing to number 3 here. And you can see, I think that Proctor knows where they're going. And I mean, maybe big picture, it's not the worst rep from Proctor because if he doesn't stay on that block as long as he does, then it's probably even a little uglier than what it was. But in a perfect world, you're going to get this guard getting into number 45 right now, basically knocking Proctor off and allowing Proctor to seal number 3. Proctor doesn't get to number 3, so it goes down in the bad reps. On this one here, a little bit of indecision here, right? We got Jeremy Bernard getting up to this slot defender and Proctor also trying to get to him. Proctor either needs to stay on this block or really commit to helping out Bernard with number 10. He kind of gets caught in no man's land, and number 10 is the one who makes that play. And then last one here, just more of an open space thing. This is a tough block, right? You're asking Proctor to get into space and get a pretty athletic guy in Aiden Fisher and locate him, right? I think that Proctor expected him to stay a little bit more to the outside and that we're going to create the lane a little more out there. Fisher does a good job of avoiding that block in space, and he's able to make the play. So tough ask from Proctor here, but still doesn't execute it. So this is where it belongs. And then climbing to the second level, doing a good job with it. So on this one, you can see that Proctor is helping out a little bit to the inside. Not really, but more so checking and making sure that he doesn't need to help before climbing to that next level. Sealing that defender to the outside. Not the greatest thing, but not a bad block either. Next one here, like this one a little more, does a good job helping number 81 on the outside here to spill that defender to the outside and then gets a nice vertical climb to seal the linebacker to the outside there. Nice job here. So on this one, we're going to have Proctor and 56 comboing through this defensive end to the linebacker. And you would think from this alignment that you might end up getting Proctor base blocking and number 56 climbing to number 7. But they do a good job of seeing the stunt here where the end slants to the inside. 56 picks that up. Proctor holds it just long enough and then slides off. Would like to see Proctor commit and run his feet a little more with that, but it's hard to criticize him too much when he's, taking that defender and tossing him 5 yards. So not going to nitpick it too much, but not sure you're going to be able to do that in the NFL. And then last one here, just similar to the Aiden Fisher one earlier, right? Lots of space there, but he's able to I guess which way that linebacker is going to go, just maintains that good position and widens him out and then follows through. All right, how you guys holding up? We have the pass game to get through. We have four different types of blocks to get through, and we're going to kind of rip the band-aid off here and get to what I feel is probably the part of Proctor's game that needs the most help right now, and that is his ability to handle counter moves when in pass protection. So first one here, doing a solid job early, but allows that spin and a hit on the quarterback. On this one again, has the block early, but feet aren't able to move to prevent him from running the hoop, getting around the edge. Another play where gets a hit on the quarterback that probably shouldn't happen. Not even a not even a counter move here, right? I think he was expecting a stunt that never really came and flushes the quarterback out of the pocket. And then gives up the inside move, ugly sack there. And now, you know, if we just think about that, that's four plays. Those were all from the first game, right? So a lot of people look at that Florida State game, and that's the one that kind of sticks out to them. There's more, right? But just remember the volume that we had in that game. Giving up the inside move again here, working out to the outside, gets the swim to the inside, ends up with a pressure, probably should have been a sack. Get him out on the edge here. And again, does a decent job here, but don't try to just throw him upfield. Stay connected so that when Simpson does scramble, you're in good position. Another swim move to the inside, right? We're kind of seeing a theme here that he's setting up either for power or speed to the outside, and that inside move is what's getting him. And that one it's not even really a pressure, right? But need to see him be able to maintain balance better than that. Can't be doing a somersault as a left tackle. Hey, look, inside move again, this time a spin move. Another spin move. South Carolina was also a really rough game for Kaden Proctor. Bit of a hump move there. Not the worst job, right? But Kieran Crawford is not the biggest edge defender that he's going to face in the NFL. If he is that off balance from a Kieran Crawford hump move, probably not going to go well in the NFL if you don't clean some stuff up there. Now we get Keldrick Falk, again, getting upfield, coming back to the inside. And then last one here. I mean, I named this section counter moves or called it counter moves, but really it's just inside moves over and over again that when you're getting Proctor into space, that seems to be an effective way to win against him. And as always, there's some good to go along with it too. And you can see that, when he gets it right, it's impressive, right? Both of these examples are examples where they're working that inside move, but Proctor is able to stay connected, react to it, and is able to make the play, right? Back to the first one. It's almost like when they talked about Patrick Paul, when Chris Greer talked about Patrick Paul, and that he doesn't always get it right, but when he does, then it's a thing of beauty. And that's the exact same thing with the counter moves here, that Proctor doesn't get it right enough, but if you can, you know, cut those bad ones in half or less and get more of this, then you're going to be cooking with some fire here. And then the next one we're going to talk about is Proctor versus speed rushers. And this is one of those deals that you're going to see when we switch from the bad reps to the good reps, that when he essentially guesses right, or when he's expecting that speed move or the speed rush, that he looks pretty good. But if you can get him uncertain, then he kind of struggles that athleticism to set up for power and then to convert to speed when it comes to protection. And you get a little bit of a jump set on that one, right? Watching the way that he's not set into a 45, he's jumping out there. Don't like the way that that second foot gets too close. And again, we're getting nitty gritty stuff here, but that left foot is there. Look at how close those feet are here, and we're not in good position, not able to turn and run. So, speed rush, beating him around the edge. Going to see a few more of these. Next one here. And you can see here, like, it kind of lacks the explosion when he's turning. When he's going backwards, he looks okay. Those first two steps are solid kick steps, right? But here, where he opens up and turns, you can see the crossover, right? Here's the second one. Now watch as we get here, and now we're crossing over, right? You don't want to be there. You want to be, if you're turning to this point, you want to be turning and running and sprinting him straight up the field, or you want to still be able to slide and be able to reset that anchor. When you get your feet crossed up like Proctor has here, bad things are going to happen. Next one here. Just not able to get back quick enough on this one. This defender is way outside, and, Proctor's trying to help out a little bit to the inside there, and the cost of helping to the inside is that he gets beat around the edge. On this one, another jump set there, right? He's setting up, looking for power. Defender never really engages, gets that dip and rip with that left shoulder around the edge, and is able to beat him for a quarterback hit. Getting Keldrick Falk around the edge, showing off that speed. Doesn't happen a ton with Falk, but you can see here that, again, that Proctor is, I don't even know why he's throwing that hand out there. Like, that defense, he's not touching him. Proctor should be working back immediately to Falk's speed, but that little bit of help to the inside cost him versus Falk. And then we get R. Mason Thomas. And again, just somebody that's a little too quick for him off the edge. And R. Mason Thomas doesn't get the sack there, but it certainly affects the ability of Simpson to evade the pressure that was given up by Jaden Roberts on the other side. But those are the bad ones. Now we're going to flip over to the good ones. Here we go. So, got the guy nice and wide out there. Would like to see him stay a little more connected, but you can see he's doing a good job getting his hands on the defender and doesn't just shove him and stand there. He is pursuing that defender so that he can't immediately get back to the quarterback. So liked it from Proctor on that one. Nice vertical set. Now here you can see that he's patient with the hands, and when that defender tries to dip around the edge, that Proctor uses that size just to press him into the ground. Nothing wrong with that. Now we're seeing, again, the hands being nice and patient. The feet are a little off. You can see a little bit of a crossover at the end there. Almost looks like he's expecting the power, but does a decent job of recovering and running him past the quarterback on that one. On that one, gets a little bit of a, kind of a power, at least a little bit of a jab early, but able to maintain his balance and run him around the edge. Another one here. This one just gets engaged nice and early. This one kind of tweener between power and speed, but thought he did a good enough job that it needed included somewhere. Another nice one here. That defender is wide. Proctor widens out with him and is able to lean on him as he's trying to dip around the edge. Similar idea here. Doesn't go back to that one. Doesn't quite get the pressure and the lean, but still, like we talked about with the very first one, even though he doesn't take him to the ground, his feet are still moving, he's still following, he's still finishing the block, which is something that we don't always see from Kaden Proctor. Nice vertical set. Now, this is what I like to see, that he gets those first two kick steps, right? He's realizing he's got the speed. Right now, he is opening up, and see the way that earlier his feet were getting crossed up after the second kick. Now watch on this one. That foot is opening. Those toes are pointed all the way this way. And now he gets his second one. So are they. This is essentially a full sprint to the goal line here. And he's able to attach on and run him past the quarterback. Would like to see him finish that. But you can see the improvement from the rep earlier and the rep that we're looking at now. And then the last one here. And kind of the same idea there, right? Nice and patient, gets 3 kicks before he flips, but he's able to get hands on that defender, widen him out, and is able to send him over the pile on the other side. And then as we move on to the pass blocking versus power, again, starting out with the negative reps, what you're going to notice, watch the feet when we go from the negative reps to the good reps. When his feet are all over the place, then he looks like he can't handle power. But in those good reps, we're going to see when he is able to anchor down and just look like a immovable object. So get through the negative ones first. And you can see that, that pass set, he's just kind of stepping up and chopping his feet. And then he tries to get going sideways. Feet are all over the place on that first rep. Here, this one could have gone in the counter moves because he gets beat to the inside. Probably shouldn't be here with the power, but again, almost a tweener rep there. Now that one, just look at the feet, right? We get that crossover. 1, 2, right? And now that foot, his right foot is almost in front of his left foot. That's when contact's happening. And you can see that he almost went to the ground because of it. Right? Starts out decent there, but never really sets the anchor. He's just kind of out there and gets that long arm into his chest. That's something that he struggles a little bit with, is when that defender can get that long arm on him. You can see the hands kind of waving there, right? And then he does, he doesn't just, he does a good job of not getting knocked over. I'll say that much, right? But we're going to see some better examples later when he handles that. Right? This one, again, we're getting back into a speed rush, and then he converts to power. Proctor's not quite ready and just kind of gets into a backwards walk from there. Another one here. This one just looks like he wasn't sure what he wanted to do from a pass set perspective, right? Was kind of setting for speed, was kind of setting for power. In between, defender ended up deciding to go power, and Proctor really wasn't ready in that case. On this one, again, see, there's another long arm, right? We're starting out with that speed rush and then converting it, right? Gets him back on his heels and walks him all the way back to the quarterback. And then last one here, another speed to power. And you can see that, once Proctor gets moving horizontally, struggles at times to be able to anchor it back down. All right, and as we get into the good reps, there's a lot of good ones here, especially compared to the number of negative ones we had, but it's tougher to talk about the good ones because it's good, right? There's not a whole lot of talking points to it, but I want you guys to still be able to see the reps, to see the volume of the reps, to see that even though there seems like there's a decent amount of negative reps, that there are more positive reps than negative reps that I was able to pull when looking at most of this stuff. In general, I think that, and I'm going to get into this a little more in the closing of the video, but a lot of this stuff that Proctor struggles with, I think would be masked by moving him to the inside and letting him play guard. And then as he matures, then maybe you can explore him at tackle again later. But especially when you look at the way that he lost on the counter moves and as well as those speed moves, if you reduce the space that he has to work with, then I think that you're going to clean up quite a few of those reps. But hopefully you've been watching as I've been talking, and you can see here that, when Proctor is expecting that power move, when he's able to anchor down, when he gets that arch in his back, right? There's not many guys, he's playing SEC competition. There's not going to be many guys in the NFL that are going to be able to walk him back into the quarterback if you can reduce the space that he's playing in and, make those defenders go directly through him. And last one here. And I lied a little bit because there is one extra section that I want to throw in here, and that is Proctor picking up stunts. I didn't have any bad reps. This is one of the things that he was actually really good at doing throughout the season. So this is going to be Kaden Proctor just passing off stunts here. You can see good job there. Defensive end going to the inside, able to adjust to the defensive tackle going to the outside. Kind of the same idea here, getting a knockdown block there because that defensive end is backing out, right? Go find work, find a rack of ribs, doing a good job of that in this case. Next one here, same idea, just passing it off. Nice and patient, not getting too deep in his drop when, not really facing the speed rush there. Able to adjust inside and give his guard plenty of time to work to the looper inside. This one getting the linebacker coming off the edge. And good job of not over helping to the inside, right? He's checking it, making sure there's nothing there. And then as soon as he's certain, then he's getting outside and locking him up. And then last one here, a little more elaborate of a stunt, but still a good job overall of passing it off and getting back out there to number 7. And then we're going to finish up the film portion here looking at Kaden Proctor on screen passes. So got a couple of ugly ones first, and then we'll look at some good ones. So on this one, is a little bit of a misdirection coming back. Proctor knows what they're doing on this play, so he needs to be able to anticipate this a little better. He finds his guy pretty early, but needs to be able to take a little bit of a better angle, maybe get his head in front here, right, and be able to prevent him from making the tackle. And then one of the most frustrating plays of the year for me. I said this earlier in the film review. Kaden Proctor, you are too damn big not to block anybody on a play that you're running 50 yards downfield. You look great running in the open field. Now block somebody. And then 2 good reps on the screen passes. So this one here, similar to the first one, able to get out there, locate that target, latch on. His defender did not make the tackle. And then similar to the second negative one, now we're getting Proctor way downfield again, right? A little bit of a reverse, kind of a flea flicker type deal, whatever. Proctor's getting down there, and then as he's not passing up color, right? 56 is out there. 56 starts to get this defensive back. On some of these, Proctor may have let that go and let that guy make the tackle. Proctor decides not to let the ugly jersey go, ends up with a pancake, and the result is that we have what is that? If we go back to the beginning, so that is that the 50-yard line there? Well, that's even longer. So we're talking like a 75-yard touchdown because Proctor got downfield and got his hands on somebody. All right, so to wrap this up, what would I do with Kaden Proctor in 2026 and beyond? I listened to Kyle Crabb's podcast earlier talking about Kaden Proctor as left guard and how for Kaden Proctor specifically, especially after the Jonas of Ionaya, whatever you want to call it from last year, that the best thing for Kaden Proctor is to put him at left guard, put him between Patrick Paul and Aaron Brewer. And that's hard to argue, but that's not what I would do. For me, I'm going to have a bit more of a long term vision. I think that Kyle and I agree that Patrick Paul is the left tackle. I'm not going to flip Patrick Paul over to the right side. So, what I would do is to put Kaden Proctor at right guard. I think that long term, he's going to be the right tackle, probably in 2027, and maybe even earlier if Austin Jackson does not stay healthy. So I would prefer to get him in that right handed stance, get him used to moving in that direction. And that way, if something does happen to Austin Jackson during the 2026 season, you can bump Kaden Proctor out and you can start building for the future. Otherwise, you're going to get to 2027 and then you're going to be trying to flip Kaden Proctor and you're going to go through more growing pains, in my opinion. In addition to that, Jeff Halfley, John Eric Sullivan have talked about getting the 5 best offensive linemen on the field, right? Patrick Paul, Aaron Brewer, Austin Jackson, clearly 3 of those. Kaden Proctor absolutely should be as the number 12 overall pick. So that leaves another guard spot open. And in my opinion, after watching the Jamari Sawyer film, Jamari Sawyer is a better player right now than Jonas of Ionaya. And I'm not writing off Jonah. I want to see him improve. But if we're talking about who is the better player today, I'm going Sawyer all day. And if you go back and watch my Jamari Sawyer video, I feel like he is actually a better fit on the left side of the line than he is on the right side of the line based on the way that he performed on each of those. So with that in mind, right, I've kind of had Sawyer in mind as my starting left guard for a bit now. So when you combine that with everything I just talked about with Kaden Proctor, it just makes sense to me that we go Patrick Paul left guard, Jamari Sawyer left, or I'm sorry, Paul left tackle, Sawyer left guard, Brewer at center, Proctor right guard, and then Austin Jackson at right tackle. Jonah works on the inside. And in an ideal scenario, then when Kaden Proctor bumps out to right tackle in 2027, then Jonah would slide in after essentially a redshirt year into your right guard spot. And then you're set for quite some time. We will see what the Dolphins do with it. It's always fun to, find out where players are playing as we get into training camp. But for now, that is the vision I have. That is what I would do with him. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. It was definitely a long one to both film, everything, make, right? I know that you guys have been waiting for this one, so I really hope that it lived up to your expectations. We are going to have more of these videos out for all of the draft prospects and possibly a couple of the UDFAs as well. But encourage you guys to interact with this video, right? Leave some comments below. Come find me on X at OLCoachSmith63. Come talk to me on Wednesdays when I'm recording with Anthony live and we take questions. Love all of that interactions. But for now, appreciate you guys watching, and we will talk again soon.